My name is Steven Sindoni. Thank you for tuning into the broadcast of Calaveras Skull Revealed. The information I would like to share with you today can be found on creationhistory.com. The article is entitled The Case of the Calaveras Skull by Edward C. Lane and Robert E. Gentet. On February 25, 1866, Mr. Madison personally discovered a human fossil skull in his mining shaft at Bald Hill in Angels Camp, California, 130 feet below the surface beneath a cap of lava. Soon after his discovery, Mr. Madison took the fossil human skull to John Scribner, store owner and agent for Wells Fargo in Angels Camp, California. Mr. Scribner's clerk cleaned off a portion of the encrusted material. The clerk then discovered that the article in question was a human skull, and shortly thereafter gave it to Dr. Jones in nearby Murphys, California. On June 18th of 1886, Dr. William Jones sent a letter to the State Geological Survey regarding the recently discovered fossil human skull. Mr. Gebb, a California state paleontologist, asked that the skull be delivered to the State Geological Survey in San Francisco. Dr. Jones complied, and the skull was received by the survey on June 29, 1866. A few days later, the prestigious head of the California Geological Survey, J.D. Whitney, who had been out of town at the time of the notification, returned to San Francisco and first examined the skull. The site of the fossils were then visited several times by Whitney, the state geologist, and 3 assistants of Whitney's, as well as several of Whitney's personal friends not connected with the Geological Survey. On July 16, 1866, Whitney read a brief paper about the skull before the California Academy of Sciences. In 1880, J.D. Whitney published a book on his findings. About 1883, 3 years after the publication of Whitney's monumental book, Dr. A.S. Hudson of Stockton, California, was reported by William Holmes to have visited Angels, California, and interviewed Scribner and Madison. In the words of Holmes, Dr. Hudson was convinced, after talking with Scribner, that no deception whatsoever had been practiced. When Dr. Hudson interviewed Madison, he showed Madison and his wife the figure or cut copied from Professor Whitney's book. Mrs. Madison at once recognized the picture representing the specimen in question. It was said the cemented gravel so adhered to it as to fill out the back head of it and make it look as a occipital portion. Mr. Hudson's evaluation of Mr. Madison's character, reported by Holmes, was highly favorable and seemed to be a very honest appearing man. He evidenced no disposition to magnify, falsify, or to depart from the correct line of truth. The Calaveras skull that was found in gold-bearing gravel, dated by conventional geology as tens of millions of years older than man's supposed origin. William H. Dahl, a man who personally examined the Calaveras skull on January 10, 1899, reported to the Academy of Natural Sciences of Philadelphia, the evidence has generally been regarded among scientific men as convincing and sufficient, and that no sufficient reason had been adduced for doubting the genuine character of the skull and its original location below the lava. Also in 1899, Vice President Thomas Wilson of the American Association for the Advancement of Science also defended the skull's genuineness. In addition to these men, other noted men such as L.G. Yates, E.T. Newton, President of the Geologists Association, and W.O. Ayres were all in agreement with Whitney that the Calaveras skull was not a hoax and was originally embedded in the aphorous gravels at the time of their deposition before the Ice Age. Taken here in December 1863 is a photo of the California Geological Survey group. Whitney and his group did not waver in their belief that the Calaveras skull was genuine. Mired in controversy, Whitney believed that the skull was genuine. He was eventually replaced at Harvard by F.W. Putman, who also argued to the skull's authenticity. Josiah Dwight Whitney, Jr. was born in 1819 in Massachusetts. He graduated at Yale and surveyed several areas of America and Europe as a geologist. In 1865, he was appointed professor of geology by Harvard. He received an honorary doctorate from Yale in 1870. He spent his final years teaching at Harvard until his death in 1896. It is my belief that the Calaveras skull is evidence of Pliocene age man in North America, making it the oldest known record of humans on the continent.